Hey, before we get started with today's episode, I want to let you know that if you're planning for retirement or aren't sure where to start, we have a helpful checklist for you. We put together a guide called Your Pre-Retirement Checklist and have made it available for free on our website. This detailed checklist covers things pertaining to cash flow, Social Security, Medicare, asset allocation, and living a purposeful retirement. The link to download the checklist is listed in the episode description. Or you can go to wiserinvestor.com, scroll to the bottom, enter your email address, and then you'll have access to your pre-retirement checklist. Thanks for listening.
Welcome to a Wiser Retirement Podcast, where we believe the best financial advice should always be conflict-free. I'm your host, Casey Smith, and with me are my co-hosts, Matthews, Barnett, and Brad Lyons. Hey, guys.
Hi, Casey.
How's it going?
So today we're going to talk about staying active in retirement. It's part of our theme for this quarter. But really, before we jump in there, focusing on these things in retirement right now are probably really important. As we record this, the market is officially in a bear market territory.
Entered a bear market yesterday with the S&P 500 officially down 21% from its highs. So we've entered bear territory. We're looking at a rising interest rate environment. Tomorrow, we'll see what the Fed's meeting today, and they'll announce interest rate changes tomorrow. So we'll see what the effect of that is. Investors have been very concerned about inflation that came in higher than expected in May. It was at 8.6% year over year. Well, I think 1% month over month, something like that. Energy prices are rising. Interest rates are rising. Costs of goods and services are rising. As we've mentioned, these are just concerns that investors are having, trying to reprice the securities relative to a high inflation environment and a higher interest rate environment. And that's a little unsure to investors right now as they're trying to project out those future cash flows and the net present value in today's world. So we'll see how this plays out a little bit. There's been some positive things going on, though, still. The corporate profits are still doing very well. First quarter profits, as we know by now, 80% of the companies that reported higher than expected revenues. So far, this upcoming quarter, profits are expected to come in at 10% higher than last year. So profits are still doing quite well at companies. Jobs are still available. I think we were talking and mentioned that the ratio of jobs available to workers seeking jobs is 1.9 to 1 right now, which means that there's somewhere in the neighborhood of 11 to 12 million jobs available and 6 million or so people currently looking for jobs. So jobs are plentiful, and that's positive. There seems to be a bit of a shift going on in consumer spending, and that has investors worried as they're looking to reallocate their portfolios to meet that demand. It seems that we can look back now and we can see that during the period of COVID, people were buying goods in order to satisfy what their needs in life. Now that's kind of phased out as the economy has reopened and people are able to travel and move about. And now people are shifting their expenditures towards services, which means they're traveling, they're buying vacations, they're wanting experiences. Having been cooped up in their homes for quite some time, people want to get out. They want to spend the dollars that they have. As we know, the Fed pumped in, close to $10 trillion into the economy. And now they're trying to figure out a way to pull this money back a bit in order to get a better footing on pricing, on inflation. So it's going to take some time. The Fed is doing what they can. We can't predict what the Fed is going to do, whether they raise interest rates a small amount over a longer period of time or take this in bigger chunks and raise interest rates faster in order to slow down the inflationary effects on the economy. So a lot of things coming down the pike here.
So a correction is 10%, and then a bear market is
20%.
20%.
Mm-hmm.
Historically, after you enter a bear market, what happens?
Well, the market, of course, is a futures discount place. So the market's trying to predict what's going to happen. And investors in the market are saying that there's a possibility of a recession.
So if we hit recession, which we'll know by September, I believe.
Well, the official definition of a recession is 2 quarters in a row of negative GDP. So in the first quarter, we had a negative 1.4% GDP print. And so that's why you say, like, by September or sometime between June 30th and later on in the summer, we'll know what the print is for the GDP numbers in the second quarter of this year.
Yeah. It'll be the weirdest recession ever because you have record unemployment.
That's right.
At the same time that you have a contracting economy, and usually it comes to record, unemployment the other way.
That's right. That's right. Which is, part of the definition of a recession is, people
don't have jobs.
People don't have
harder
jobs,
times.
and so
Yeah.
they're not spending, so the economy shrinks. So, but that's not what's happening here.
I had someone call in recently. I happened to pick up the phone, and they were looking for hourly financial planning, and I asked her how much she made, and she said, "Well, which job?" And I said, "Well, both. What's your total income?" She said, "Well, I make 85 in one job and 90 in another job." And I said, "Okay, so you work 2 part-time jobs?" And she says, "Oh no, I have 2 full-time jobs. I work at home." I just paused for a second. I was like, well, that's true. There's about 2 jobs available for every for every person right now who's looking for a job. So this lady took both. You just and then I had so many questions, which I didn't ask, but I was like, do these employers know about this? As an employer myself, I would not be very happy. But I guess if the job's getting done, she's in IT, and
right.
She could work 24/7.
That's right, and weekends,
weekends,
remote work.
So I
get
guess
her 80 hours in,
right?
Yeah.
But no,
good for her.
She was getting out of debt, and she was ready to start saving, and so yeah, it was an interesting conversation. But shifting back to our focus, staying active in retirement. There's a lot of nasty stuff going on. Just listening to CNBC on the drive in on XM radio, I just changed the channel. I mean, these people don't have a crystal ball. They are smart people, but they don't know the future, and so much of it is what they're talking about is now. And we're not investing for today. We're not investing for next week. We're investing for a lifetime, right? And, for our clients, there's safeguards in place. There's cash reserves, 2 years worth typically is what we try to maintain. And so with these reserves, there's a buffer for events like this. So yeah, it's really nasty to sit there and look at your balance every single morning and go, I keep losing money. But you shouldn't hyper focus on it that much, because when you're invested in very broad index funds, you're going to get the broad return. And so 7 out of 10 years, historically, they're pretty good years in the stock market. Occasionally we have 3 years in there that don't go our direction. And so this is that time period. It's also frustrating, I think, because people mix their politics with their portfolio, and they think that the person they voted for or didn't vote for has a direct impact on their portfolio. And that's not really necessarily the case historically. I mean, I would argue now with inflation that's probably less that way, because it's very frustrating to see gas prices knowing that we could fix it tomorrow. We could fix the gas problem tomorrow. We don't have to buy a drop of oil. We could be exporters of oil again, actually, and profit from this as a country. And that makes a lot of people angry. And so we choose instead to hurt. You don't hurt us. No one at this table is hurt by this, or probably most of our listeners. People are hurt by the people that more than likely statistically vote for the people that are in the office now, right? So he, literally, I drive up to a gas station. I said it earlier. Drive up to a gas station. Somebody put $5 on their car because you have what's left from the last transaction. It was just over a gallon. And I'm like, man, this is who we're hurting by not using our natural resources. We're hurting the least of the population, people who can only put $5 in their car. So that, to me, that's very frustrating. But typically politics doesn't have a whole lot to do with the stock market, partially because We're a free enterprise country. We always have been. I hope that we always will be. Companies are going to make money no matter what the environment is, right? You know?
Right. Yeah.
So it's
inflation is really a regressive tax on people who make less money, right?
Oh,
That's
absolutely.
what you're referring to.
Yeah.
It's a regressive tax.
Yeah, I just look at it as it's all preventable. Now we still have the supply chain issue, which is something that I think that could be probably addressed better. But regardless, Republican, Democrat, you're going to still have that problem. That's not a White House problem. That's started with COVID, and you still have
Well, it's a
major
free enterprise
countries.
problem. You're right. It's a free
you still have
enterprise
major
problem.
countries are shutting down because of COVID.
Right.
Well, we're not.
Yeah.
So that's going to create a supply chain issue right there. But the bottom line is you got to change the channel. You got to pick up some golf clubs. You got to, whatever your hobby is, you need to go out and do that. Because if you have a plan in place, if you have a retirement plan in place, then what you need to focus on is, my mom's had to go through the healthcare system recently. And one thing's on our list here is be active in your health. And I kept thinking, she got terrible healthcare. I'm on a board of a hospital. Was not anymore. It's like, how did this happen? Right. And, I look back on it, and now the more I think about it, is like there is no VIP healthcare. There is no, hey, I'm so and so. Yeah, we're going to take you first. Well, there is some of that, but the care still sucked. So in the end, the best way to be a VIP in healthcare is not to have to use it. So it's being healthy, it's eating healthy, it's exercising, it's doing all those things. Those are things you can focus on in retirement, not sitting there looking at your portfolio every single day, right?
Which is harder to do now, the availability. So it's not like it used to be where you could not access it. It's everywhere you go with the TV and phone, but that's the more reason to just get out and not be around it and not hyper focus on what's going on in the markets.
That's right. We are in a 24-hour news cycle.
Oh, and the news sells fear.
Yeah.
Right?
It's a good time for them.
There's a lot of commercial time there that needs to be filled up.
Yeah.
Right. I actually, you talk about commercial time, it's like times like this is when all the gold people come out and say, buy gold. But when you have rising interest rates, right, your dollar's going to be strengthening. So that's typically very poor for gold. And, basically year to date, gold hasn't done horrible. It's up. It's basically flat, 0.37%, which is pretty good compared to what the stock market is doing, I guess. Mm-hmm. But still, in the last 3 months, it's down 8%. Over the last year, down almost 3.5%. So, there's no. In times like this, is tough because there's. I was looking at my phone yesterday, and I'm like, man, these are all of our holdings. They're all in the red. Even the most conservative bond funds in the red because the entire world is moving to cash, which is the last place you want to be in a high inflation period. So you have to remember too that you're getting your dividends, right? You're getting income off the portfolio,
right?
And I remember as an advisor from the flat decade 2000 to 2010, there's a lot of stuff that happened on the calendar between those time periods. When you look back at rate of returns, it was income. The portfolio income was the rate of return, right? So,
right. Which means those people are getting paid to wait.
Yeah.
Yeah. As
absolutely.
an investor, you're getting paid to wait when you're receiving those dividends. You're waiting for price increases to occur. And in the meantime, you're receiving dividend checks in the mail in your account.
And also as humans, though, we think that the way things are today are the way things are always going to be. And I feel like I keep saying this story over and over again. I don't know if I do it on the podcast or not, but it's when you're going through something, it feels like you're going to be in that situation forever, but that's not necessarily the case. It's just a season. The markets aren't going to continue to drop at these percentages forever. We've had 8 horrible weeks, followed by a great week, followed by a flat week, followed by another appears to be a horrible week. But I remember during the financial crisis, it was Dow zero. Oh, this is what's going to take to get the Dow to zero, because we got down to 6,300, 6,800, something like that. And then on the way up, people are like, Dow 50,000, Dow 50,000, right? And that's not reality either.
No, it's not. These shocks occur to, an economy from time to time. I wouldn't even necessarily call this a shock, though. I mean, interest rates rise and fall over time, and we know that these things happen.
Yeah.
A shock is more like the great financial crisis of 2008.
True.
A shock is more like COVID.
Yeah,
Okay?
I think
A global pandemic and an economy
I think the
being
shock
shut down.
is during a modern day pandemic, the market ends up being up, huge percentages, for a year and a half. That, To me, that's probably the shock when you look back at it. It's like, why did it do that?
Yeah.
Well, a lot of with the influx of capital, we knew this was going to happen at some point. Just most people said it would be transitory, which it's not appearing to be transitory, which
No.
could be the longer term issue if inflation stayed like this for a while, or they have to hike rates to keep up with it.
So, staying active in retirement. That's our that's supposed to be our focus today. So let's talk about some of this stuff. What are some things that could take our minds off of what's happening to portfolios and everything else financial these days? So obviously engaging your mind. So you don't want to be bored in retirement. We always, the cliches of older people doing the crossword puzzles or reading it. Obviously reading a book. Everyone should be doing that, even if you're not retired. Listening to a podcast.
That's what I was going to say. What a great idea. Listen to podcasts.
Start listening to different podcasts, not related maybe to the markets, unless it's positive.
Yeah.
We're trying to stay positive. I think the best way to engage your mind is probably, I think, continually learning, right? And you should never stop learning. And I see that with a lot of people. Oh yeah, we don't use computers, or we don't know how to work this phone. And I get it that it's probably foreign to them, and how it all happens is like magic, right?
Yeah.
But you still should go learn it. Just go figure it out.
We should follow our interests, right? And learn more about them. And so we can enhance the things that we enjoy. So that's part of the learning as well, is learning more about the things that you enjoy.
That's true.
What about golf? Okay, let's take an example like that. Take a lesson.
Yeah.
Okay, push yourself a little outside your comfort zone in order to see what your capabilities are. Okay, learning can be both intellectual, it can be physical. Learning can be social,
Right.
as well. So there's lots of ways to look at learning and utilize that as I want to learn something. Let's go try it.
Yeah. I already have one thing in the back of my mind for retirement. If I ever retire.
Yeah.
I can't imagine I'd ever retire. Yeah. But I see these people and they're like grill masters and they're like grilling all this stuff.
Oh, that's great.
I don't know how to do any of that.
Yeah.
I'm not. Yeah. At my house, you'd see my wife grilling, not me.
For now.
For now.
For
yeah.
now.
But no, I know a guy who kind of semi-retired, and he took a class, and I played golf with him one day, and he's like super tired, and like, hey, what have you been doing? You're like zonked out today. And he's like, oh, I don't know, he's cooking something and had to cook all night or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. He said there was like stray dogs at the fence. But I was like, that sounds really cool. It's like a project, right? And he made too much, feeding the whole neighborhood.
Yeah.
I like acts of service. That's great. Right?
That's awesome.
Maybe someday. Partially as I'm colorblind, green, brown, blue, purple. So with that, grilling gets a little harder.
Have to go after thermometer exact measurements.
They have these things that you can just plug in and it tells you the temperature. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe
Grilling's
someday.
gone high tech.
It has.
It used to be charcoal.
You don't need the skill then you just plug it in.
And some time.
Well, and then part of the problem is I don't really appreciate a good meal because I'm always like, in my mind, I have all these work things I need to be focused on, right?
Yeah.
So I'm always hurrying through lunch and not trying to enjoy my lunch.
Cook everything on high.
Yeah,
Get it over with.
I wouldn't even have to eat. If, in a perfect world, I just wouldn't even eat.
Yeah.
So my mindset will have to change a little bit. But no, I think, you mentioned golf. I think there's other things. What's kind of struck me recently is this pickleball is like rage. Everyone's doing this pickleball.
Very big.
Oh my goodness.
I was
it's
talking
huge.
to an orthopedic surgeon. He said that was keeping him in business.
A lot of injuries.
85-year-olds playing pickleball.
Yeah. So again, that's something new. Okay.
Yeah,
They
it
learned
is.
a new game.
Right.
Okay. So it's great.
But yeah, I and then I think being a regular reader, I don't like reading. I like reading business books mostly now, but I think as I would age, things would shift a bit, maybe. But it's a great way to kind of get lost in something other than a TV programming is horrible today. I feel like, but, active in your health, man. I mean, you've got, there's a service. It's called MDVIP. If you're in the Atlanta area, you can find several doctors that are part of that program. It's about, I want to say it's like maybe $475 a quarter, somewhere in there. But basically, it's a really thorough physical. I mean, they sit down and spend hours with you, all sections of your health, and help give you goals and things to work toward. And so there's services like that will not just come and do physical and you talk to the doctor for 5 minutes. They'll spend 2 hours with you. The doctor will. Mm-hmm. And so that's a great way to establish a baseline of your health and what you need to be working on. But obviously just building a routine, which I'm really good at building a temporary routine. I can go a couple of weeks being really good with my workouts, and then I drop off because, I have a podcast to do at 8:00 in the morning. So let's skip the workout today. Being an active storyteller, this is something that made our list today that I wouldn't have thought about. Michaela here in our office helped put together our notes. So shout out to Michaela for this one. She wrote here, greatest gift is to have, the greatest gift you have is your experience. Be an active storyteller to your family as a mentor or your overall community, which I think is great. I mean, we have a lot of airline pilots here that have a lot of knowledge, a lot of things that young people should learn so they don't hurt themselves or their passengers. And I can relate to that. Going, man, you guys need to be listening to these old gray guys.
Well, it's also part of our legacy. When we tell stories about our lives to our children, to our grandchildren at that point in time, we're leaving a legacy. We're leaving a legacy of how we lived and what we saw and what we did and whose lives we touched. It could be career, could be life, could be experiences that we've all had.
Yeah.
But, it's just a way for one generation to pass down a story and a legacy from generation to generation, who may have an interest in this, just didn't know that grandfather or grandmother used to do this. And that's why they have an interest in it, for example.
We have a whole series getting teed up now for next quarter, and I'm really excited about it. It's called Building a Financial Legacy, but there's so much more to it than just finance. And we're starting to put that together now, and I'm really excited to talk about that next quarter. So we can't give it all away, Brad.
No, we won't. But that was a teaser.
Another thing to pick up, music in retirement. I never thought about that. I appreciate music, but that's not my gift. And but yeah, I could see picking up guitar lessons or piano lessons.
Well, it could be kind of thought of as that we go through life in a series of events that lead us off into areas that we may not have expected, and we wanted to try something in our lives, but life, work, family, we got so busy we never got a chance to do it. Here in retirement, we get a chance to go back in time and try some of the things that we wanted to do when we were younger. Some of them we may be successful at, some we may completely fail at, but that's okay. They're all new experiences, they're new learning, thing. We might meet new friends doing it.
Yeah.
Okay. But we're work takes up a lot of our time, family takes up the rest of it. Now it's an opportunity for a retiree in that station in life to try some of the things that they've always wanted to do.
Yeah.
So,
and then I think it's a given because it's so cliche, but travel, right? But you want to do that early in retirement, I feel like, versus later in retirement. But yeah, there's a lot of cool things to do out west. Car trips, stop and see stuff, see landscape you haven't seen before. Mm-hmm. Pine trees aren't everywhere. Landscape's different places. So there's you just have to be ready. You have to have a retirement activity plan. We always joke, so we give you a week or 2 weeks on the couch, but after that you gotta find something to do.
Yeah.
But that's I think that's important. Is in part of your retirement planning is like, what is your action plan? What is going to be your purpose? What's your new purpose each morning, right? And we there's whole generations out there that need mentoring. So being plugged into something that you love to do, I think is great. You have like, there's even stuff that you don't even think about. There's like RC airplanes. There's bicycling. There's, all kinds of hobbies. There's a club up in Highlands, North Carolina on Mondays. They have the yacht club. That sounds really important. And there's a nearby lake, and it's like, oh, there's a yacht club. That's pretty fancy, It's actually just RC boats. And so the golf course is closed on Mondays. So all the old guys get out there with the RC boats. They're driving around. They're having races and
a group event that's active.
Yeah. I was like, oh, that's so cool. And in fact, it even spurred like a whole hobby shop down in Franklin.
Yeah.
So they drive down to Franklin and there's a RC shop that has all these gas and electric powered RC boats. So you just don't know, right?
No, you really don't. You have to have an open mind going into it.
Absolutely.
And see where it takes you. And in one event, it contains multiple versions of what we just talked about. You're social. You have a small community of other yachtsmen.
Right.
You have an interest. You learned about it. You may have had to put it together. So you had to read the instructions
right.
and do it all. And then you go out and you experience it.
And then there's also, think about moving. People make fun of these places, but actually they serve a purpose. Like the villages down in Florida. You got Sun City, and I think that's in Arizona. I know there's one down near Hilton Head. Several, it might be one in south of town here in Atlanta. But if you look at their calendar, their activities, you drive through Sun City, right? I was down there a few weeks ago or last week. I kid you not, I'm turning the corner and I look over and there's a softball game going on. These people out there look like they're in their late 70s, mid 80s. And they were women playing softball. And they have a softball league. And I drive by a couple days later. They're out there again. And they have these huge bleachers. And all these people are there watching the softball game. And I'm like, they have a whole softball league here. That's crazy. And then I see the program of all the activities. Every hour could be booked. From crocheting to golf to tennis, softball. It's crazy. So being a part of community, I think, is very important. Mm-hmm. That you find activities and social things to do. And that's very healthy. Go live your best life, right?
Absolutely.
So I think that's what I put at the tail end of our client newsletter update about some portfolio changes we were making due to just recent events. And that's one of the things I put down at the bottom is if you're saving for retirement, this is a great opportunity to buy more shares per dollar. That's how you have to look at it. And it's healthy because you're buying all these lower cost shares, and when it rebounds, right, that's where your big returns come from. Mm-hmm. But if you're with us, you have a financial plan. If you don't have a financial advisor who hasn't done a plan, hasn't put in some safety nets for situations like this, then there could be an issue. But for us, for our clients, I don't feel like there is. They just need to continue to live their best lives. Go live your best life. Go do the things you want to do, because in our plan, we've assumed something like this would happen. And it won't happen forever. It will get better, right?
That's right. It will get better. We know this because we've seen enough of these over the years.
Yeah.
Bear markets on average happen once every 3 or 4 years.
And if you're pre-retirement, then let's say, you're inside 10 years of getting ready to retire. This is another example of why you want to be debt-free. Get the home paid for, get the cars paid for, no credit card debt, no personal loans, no window loans, no HVAC loans, right? You eliminate all that so you don't have a monthly payment. So when it feels like the world's falling apart, you're only responsible for utilities in the end, right? And
right.
And that brings a sense of peace to your life that you don't really understand until you're in situations like this right now.
Yeah, that's a whole nother story, is how we've become so accustomed to debt payments that we can't imagine not having them. But here we try and advocate for our clients to get debt-free and experience that peace of mind that you talk about.
Episode 107 on our podcast. Look that one up. It covers getting rid of debt prior to retirement. And then episode 112 here recently, we did one on how retirement can affect mental and physical health. And so that might be a good one to the cross-reference for this. But yeah, it's going to be okay. Everything's going to be fine.
Mm-hmm.
So just keep trucking along, and we got to get back to work.
For our clients.
For our clients. All right, guys, good conversation. Talk to you later.
Thanks for listening to a Wiser Retirement podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Make sure to subscribe wherever you're listening, that way you don't miss any new episodes. We would also appreciate if you could leave a rating and review. If you have any questions about anything that was discussed today, head to wiserinvestor.com and reach out. We would love to hear from you. This episode was produced and edited by Lilton Moore.